Welcome to Sleepy Tales. My name is Mateus, and before we begin today's story, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment below saying, "I'll sleep well tonight." Now, sit back, relax, and let's dive into tonight's tale. Sarah, Mike, Lisa, Tom, and Alex had been planning their trip to the cabin in the woods for months. They all needed a break from their daily routine and were excited to spend the weekend away from the city. The cabin was isolated and surrounded by trees, making it the perfect place to unwind and relax. As they arrived, the sky was dark and the air was filled with the scent of rain. The group quickly unloaded their belongings from the car and headed inside. The cabin was rustic, with wooden floors and walls and a fireplace in the living room. Sarah and Lisa began to unpack, while Mike and Tom started a fire in the fireplace. Alex, who had been admiring the view from the window, noticed something strange in the woods. It was a figure, barely visible, but it seemed to be moving towards the cabin. Alex brushed it off, thinking it was just his imagination, and joined the others by the fireplace. As the night went on, the group played board games and shared stories. However, they soon began to notice strange noises coming from outside. It sounded like footsteps, but there was no one there when they checked. The tension in the air increased, and they all started to feel uneasy. Suddenly, they heard a loud bang from the kitchen. Sarah, Lisa, and Alex went to investigate, while Mike and Tom stayed behind. As they entered the kitchen, they found that the pots and pans had been thrown to the floor. It was as if something or someone had deliberately caused the disturbance. The group was now on high alert. They decided to stick together and keep an eye on their surroundings. They all sat together in the living room, with their backs against the wall, listening to the rain tapping against the windows. That's when they heard it, a low growl, followed by a creaking sound. They looked around the room, trying to find the source of the noise. That's when they saw it, a shadowy figure standing in the doorway. The figure was tall, with long arms and a twisted face. It was staring at them, its eyes glowing in the dark. The group froze in fear. They had never seen anything like this before. As they watched, the figure began to move towards them, slowly but steadily. It was clear that they were dealing with something far more sinister than they had anticipated. The horror had only just begun. The group quickly realized that they were not alone in the cabin. The figure in the doorway was just the beginning of their nightmare. As the night went on, the presence grew stronger, and the group found themselves being terrorized by unseen forces. They heard strange noises, felt cold spots, and saw shadows moving across the room. They tried to stay together, but the cabin seemed to be playing tricks on them, causing them to get separated at the most crucial moments. They soon discovered that the cabin had a mind of its own, and it was not happy with their presence. Sarah, Lisa, and Alex decided to investigate the cabin, hoping to find some clues that would help them understand what was happening. As they searched, they found a hidden room in the basement. Inside, they found an old journal that belonged to the cabin's previous owner. The journal was filled with cryptic messages, warning of an ancient curse that haunted the land. According to the journal, the cabin was built on an ancient burial ground, and the spirits of the dead were restless. The previous owner had tried to perform a ritual to calm the spirits, but it had only angered them more. The group realized that they were in grave danger, and they needed to act fast. Mike and Tom decided to venture into the woods to look for help, leaving Sarah, Lisa, and Alex behind in the cabin. As they walked through the woods, they saw strange apparitions and heard eerie whispers. It was as if the forest was alive, and it was trying to stop them from leaving. Meanwhile, back in the cabin, the spirits grew bolder. The group heard screams and cries, but they couldn't locate the source. They tried to barricade the doors and windows, but it was no use. The spirits were too powerful. Just as things seemed hopeless, Mike and Tom returned with a local shaman who claimed to have the power to exorcise the spirits. The shaman performed a ritual, calling upon the spirits to leave the land and find peace. The group watched as the cabin shook and trembled, as if an earthquake had hit. Finally, the ritual was complete and the spirits vanished. The group was relieved, but they knew that they would never forget what had happened in the cabin. They packed their bags and left, vowing never to return. As they drove away, they looked back at the cabin, now just a distant memory. They knew that they had been lucky to escape with their lives, and that they would never forget the horrors they had experienced. They had learned that sometimes it's best to leave the past behind and move on, no matter how difficult it may be. After leaving the cabin, the group tried to put the horrors of their experience behind them. But they found it difficult to shake off the feeling that something was still following them. They all experienced strange dreams and unexplained occurrences that left them feeling uneasy. Months passed, and the group slowly began to move on with their lives. However, they couldn't shake the feeling that the cabin was still watching them. They all avoided talking about the experience, hoping that by ignoring it, it would eventually fade away. One day, Sarah received a phone call from the new owners of the cabin. They had bought the property without knowing about its dark history and had experienced similar paranormal activity. The new owners begged Sarah to help them, claiming that they didn't know what to do. Feeling a sense of obligation, Sarah agreed to help. She gathered the old group and returned to the cabin. As soon as they arrived, they knew that something was different. The cabin looked as if it had been abandoned for years, despite being recently bought. As they stepped inside, they were immediately transported back to their previous experience. The air was thick with a sense of dread, and the group could feel eyes watching them from every corner of the cabin. They quickly got to work, trying to find a way to break the curse that haunted the land. They discovered that the previous owners' attempt at performing the ritual had only angered the spirits, making the situation worse. The group decided to take a different approach. They spent hours researching ancient rituals and incantations, trying to find the right combination that would work. Finally, they stumbled upon a ritual that had been used by ancient civilizations to appease restless spirits. The group performed the ritual, calling upon the spirits to leave the land and find peace. The cabin shook, and the air crackled with energy as the spirits responded to the group's plea. Finally, the cabin fell silent. The group was relieved and exhausted. They knew that they had broken the curse, and the spirits had finally found peace. They left the cabin, feeling a sense of closure that they had not experienced before. As they walked away, they knew that they had finally put the horrors of their past behind them. They had overcome their fears and had succeeded in breaking the curse that had haunted the land. They knew that they would never forget their experience, but they were ready to move on and embrace their future with a renewed sense of purpose. Thank you for listening to this bedtime story, and remember, if you struggle with falling or staying asleep at night, click on the first link in the description for the ultimate solution to your problem. Now, choose one of these two videos and continue on our journey in the world of bedtime stories.